Hey folks, today we're going to highlight this TEAC X-1000R auto reverse reel-to-reel tape deck. This one's in really great condition. Excellent, easily excellent, bordering on near mint, I'd say. The only thing holding it back for me is this little ding right here. That's probably about it for the face of the unit. The case is, I'd say, very good to excellent. A few dings at the back, but overall looks really well. These cases, if they are not at least very good to excellent, I actually even throw them away. They don't develop a nice patina. They are real wood, but it's a vinyl wrap over it. So if they're not in good condition, they don't look good. But anyway, this one does look very good. The deck presents really well. And we'll talk a little bit about the deck, do a little bit of a demo, and then wrap things up. So this one's been restored by me. It's a 22-hour process, 16 hours hands-on. So very extensive, very meticulous, really addressing all aspects from the standpoint of function, cosmetics, as well as feel. So it's everything about the deck is going to be very much a pleasure to use from the standpoint of just operating the controls all the way to the sound quality. So what do I like so much about the TEAC X-1000R? And I always have one of these in my system. I restored this one in March, and it is now September, so I've been enjoying this one for several months. So first, it's auto reverse deck, and there's quite a number of auto reverse decks out there, but this one plays and records in both directions, which is an enormous convenience. So a reel-to-reel tape deck will typically have, pretty much almost all the time, will have 3 heads. That would be high-end for a cassette deck, but pretty standard for a reel-to-reel. So an erase head, a record head, and a play head. Play and record are different. 2 reasons. One is that you can monitor your recording in real time. Second is that record and play, the characteristics of the heads rather, are different to optimize for recording and optimize for playing. So improves the sound quality. So most reel-to-reels will have 3 heads. This one has 6, so it has erase, record, and play for the reverse direction as well. So it's an enormous convenience once you have the reels on. You never have to flip the reels, regardless of what you're doing. And so enormous convenience, great from sound quality. The downside is that for me as a restorer, it's a very extensive calibration. So you basically do the full calibration in forward as well as reverse. We'll get a little bit into that later as we go. Second is dual capstan, servo control of the tape path, electronic brakes. Just everything from the standpoint of the tape path is just phenomenal. So dual capstan means there's two capstans and 2 pinch rollers. So the tape is very well controlled between the dual capstans. If you have any familiarity with really high-end cassette decks, this is what they did as well. For instance, I think this was pretty much pioneered by Nakamichi. But anyway, it's on this reel-to-reel deck, and means that there's excellent tape tension and control of the tape path between the 2 capstans and the pinch rollers. Second, servo control. So the motors are servo control based on the position of these take up levers, I guess you'd call them. And so the tape transport is just ultra smooth. Let's get I'll hit a button in just a second here. So the third thing is the real-time tape counter and computer control. So you've got real-time, elapsed time of where you are, as well as the ability to memorize and then go to 2 different points on the tape. One being the 0 point and one being a cue point that you set. So for instance, I have the 0 point is set, I also have a cue point set. If I press search to 0 and then play, the deck will reverse, slow down, go to that point, and then play. So you'll see how ultra smooth this is once it gets to that point. And finally, the sound quality of these decks is just phenomenal, especially when the full audio calibration has been done, as it has been on this deck. So you can see it slows down and then plays automatically. And the reason I'm playing automatically is because I pressed the button to play. I had it selected for source. Let's do that again. Search to 0, play, and now we're listening to the tape heads, not the source, which happens to be off. All right, so let's go over a little bit of the restoration. So very extensive. Essentially, the first thing I do is break down the deck. Pretty much almost everything you see, with the exception of the meters in there, is removed. So the face plates, the full head assembly, including the cap stands, tape heads, the control arms, all the pots are lubed, the control panels removed and disassembled and cleaned. So very, very extensive restoration. Basically what I do is break it down and then bring each sub-assembly to the bench, address them in turn, go over the pots, things like all your buttons and knobs. All those will come off and soak overnight in just mild soap and warm water. That's really all you need. Face plates are cleaned. Full deck is detailed inside and out. So I think I mentioned the control panel. Essentially by disassembling that, you're getting out all the grime and everything that's accumulated over time, and also making sure the responsiveness of these buttons is just excellent. So when I pressed search to 0 and play, I had no doubt that is what was going to happen. So we talked the capstan, the pinch roller, this whole assembly. It's a critical point for that, and you could probably get one of these. These decks are often not working, but you could get one working probably in under an hour. Replacing the belt, spraying some solvent in here to the point where you get this to work. Two problems with that. One is it's probably going to seize up within 6 months, certainly within a year or two. Second of all, you haven't addressed anything from the standpoint of the audio calibration. So which for these decks is very critical. Like I mentioned, you have 6 heads there. You have 6 heads. You have 2 speeds. You have selections for standard tape as well as EE tape. You have the DBX. So there's the calibration is very extensive, but very noticeable when it's been done. Very thorough cleaning of all the switches and pots with deoxit. So typically hit all the. So deoxit, as a general term, there's a number of different ones. There's D5, which is mainly for switches and contacts. There's fader lube, which is for potentiometers. All that's been addressed. And, we talked about the transport arms, controls, the brake torque. Then we get into all the mechanical adjustments and specs, which you go from the brake torque, tape tension, and forgot to bring it, but there's a absolutely critical tool particularly for these decks, really any reel-to-reel, but you're not going to be able to set the tape tension correctly on these without a tentillometer. And if you watch one of my old videos, I always show it. I just forgot to get it out. Essential tool for setting the tape tension, which you do in play forward, supply and take up for forward, supply and take up for reverse, forward, and forward tension as well as reverse fast tension. So the forward wind speed, so let's just go look at forward wind. So this deck is It's just incredibly fast, and that wind speed is set with an oscilloscope to spec. And when it's to spec, I believe it's 100 seconds from end to end on one of these large reels. And forward wind speed, reel table height, tape path, tape speed, and then after all is done, you check your wow and flutter and see how well you've done, how good the deck is from the standpoint of its mechanical, how well it's held up over the years. This one came to 0.042% in forward and 0.041% in reverse, so excellent wow and flutter and well within spec. Let me hit the search to cue and play, and it'll go then to the cue point that I set, which is just the second song that I have recorded here. Then you get, then at that point I usually let the deck, I always actually let the deck play in auto reverse mode, just going back and forth for 6 hours, making sure that the heads, which have been meticulously cleaned, but they get fully, it kind of just puts a little bit of a polish on the heads, which may have not been used in 10 years or so if this thing was sitting for a while, so that when you do the audio calibration, you're really getting a very good calibration. So that cue point was set, and so you see it just went there. So let's press search to 0. If I press search to 0 without pressing play, we'll just go to that point, and then we'll talk a little bit about, we'll do a little bit of a record demo. So let's see, essential for playback response is a calibration tape, which are made by a company called MRL, I think Magnetic Recording Laboratories, or something like that. And the playback response of this deck is plus 1.5, minus 1.6 dB, which is phenomenal, and about within half of the spec. So excellent response. The overall playback and record through to playback is equally as good. What's interesting is if you think about which one is more important, it's actually the playback. If your high frequencies are falling off a little bit, you could compensate for that on the record by tweaking your bias up. Problem then is that tape will sound a little bright on another deck that has been properly calibrated. So this one has excellent response from the standpoint of playback, record, and overall, which essentially means that the heads are in excellent shape. So they are in excellent shape visually as well as from the standpoint of playing. So it might be getting a little long here. So let's listen. So this is your tape monitor. So it's in tape position out. That's normally where it would be. Press it in and you can listen to your source. And I do have a source here. We can just listen to it. So this is listening to the source just coming through the electronics of the deck. So let's cue that back. And to record on this deck, pretty simple. There's a record mode switch. Essentially, it's a safety, so you're not recording over your tapes inadvertently. And when that is engaged, this is going to blink. This record button is going to blink. Now, to arm the deck, you would press record and pause at the same time. And usually I just do it that way just to make sure I've got it. So record and hit the record button and hit the pause. Now it's armed for recording, and when I press play, it will record. So let's go back into tape monitor mode. So now we're actually going to hear, we listened to the source before, now we'll hear what's being recorded. So let's press play. The deck is now recording, and now let's press play on our source. And I know people like to hit the switch and kind of go back and forth. Show how similar it is. It's essentially identical. The frequency response to this deck, I think I mentioned this. Well, I did mention this deck. It's just phenomenal. So very crisp on the highs, excellent bass response. It's a really wonderful sounding deck. and that's attributed to two things. One is the condition of the deck, kind of as found, and then all the extensive restoration work that's been done, including the audio calibration. So we can even stop. Let's go search to zero and play. We're still in tape monitor mode, so notice that it'll go very fast, but then when it's near the position, the reels go slow so that it doesn't basically overshoot. So that's what we recorded. Let's just do one more thing. I'll stop that. Just to show the auto reverse. So there's 3 auto reverse modes. One is just a forward mode where it would play, and then it would just the tape would run off, or just finish onto this take up reel. One is forward to reverse, and it uses a foil sensor which you apply to the tape, and then it senses that and goes into reverse mode. Now to go from reverse back to forward, it uses the 0 position on the counter. So in this case, since we're at the beginning of the tape, we'll put it in, full auto reverse, which means this deck would just keep playing for hours and hours and hours. And in case you're wondering, a 10-inch reel, and this is ATR Magnetics, this is the tape that I use for the calibration. Excellent quality tape. And I definitely recommend, if you need to buy tape, just get new tape. And if you do buy vintage tape, Maxell is the one you can usually count on for not having issues of stickiness and dropouts and stuff. So, but anyway, I think we were going to do we're going to play the reverse side of the tape. Let's get the record mode off so that's not blinking anymore. We don't have to worry about recording over our tape now. We'll go from reverse and reverse play, and the cap stands are switching over, and it's going to go into reverse. Let's get in this here. I'm going to run off the tape. I don't think I will. So reverse based on that 0 position. And this is what we recorded earlier. So we hit the main points. So also the deck has been, the main calibration is done in the LH2 position. This is what you'd use for pretty much any tape, whether it's modern or say vintage Maxell, UD, XL1, if it's TDK. And if you have really ancient tape, kind of like the brown acetate ones, often in the pre-recorded small reels, there's another position here for those, LH1, but it just adds a little bit of high frequency response, but this is where the deck's been calibrated. Modern tapes, if you record with any modern or good quality vintage tape, you'll find you get a good result. The EE position, also the bias has been adjusted for that. I do have some EE tapes, and EE tapes was in the early 80s when they were trying to compete now with some of the high-end cassette decks like your Nakamichis. They came out with your EE tape similar to, say, like a chrome tape for cassette. But they marketed more from the standpoint of efficiency. Now you can use the low speed and still get good response. And so I would not, if you have them, that's great. You could use this E position and play or record. You'll get a great result. I wouldn't advise looking for those to buy. You will pay a premium for those, and for that premium you could buy a modern new tape like ATR Magnetics or RTL, and those will even be better than that. And you use your LH2 position. So let's see, I think we should wrap this up. I'm not sure, we might even be over the limit. So I love these decks. It was a pleasure to share it with you, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.